You're doing the intro?
Yeah, I'll do it. I already started it. Hello, welcome everyone to a new Verbal Laxative episode, a two-man episode. We got me, we got Simpson here, and
Brian,
it's just the two of us for our two-man special.
the more intimate show today.
Yeah, we are postponing our anniversary show until all of us can get here, but the other two are, I guess they're busy right now. Both of them are trying for the Guinness World Record in who can defecate the most. So wishing them both all the luck, and hopefully they'll be here next week.
Don't you find summertime one of the hardest to plan around? Because everyone always have, vacations or
Yeah,
summer camps, things like that.
yeah, yeah.
And I
Definitely.
feel like this is going to be postponed till like Halloween.
This and Christmas break.
Oh,
Christmas
yeah.
break.
Christmas break.
Yeah,
For sure. Yeah.
You get some competing schedules.
Yeah, you can usually get that really working hours during January up until like April.
This might as well just be the unpaying job that everyone has. Do you remember we went on hiatus for like almost like a month or two? I don't know if
What?
you were there at that time. I think you were
Oh, okay, yeah.
by that time. Yeah, we went on like a break for a couple months.
When was that?
I think it was like after I got married.
Oh, right.
During when I got married last year
Yeah, right.
ish.
Yeah, well, you should have did a podcast during your wedding.
No,
Would have been a fantastic one.
I had more better things to do.
Yeah, this is a tough one, yeah.
Yeah,
People are
Hey.
busy.
I feel like we already like when we were having like we went to grab a bite to eat and we already talked about most of the stuff that we were gonna talk
Yeah,
about in the podcast.
yeah.
No, we still got shit ton of stuff to talk about. Let's get into it.
All right,
So-
sounds good.
Let's just get into the meat right now. And then just a day ago, two days, whatever. I'm not gonna give the exact amount of days ago, but very recently there was the American Democratic Party debates.
Yes, for the 2020 election in the United
massive-
States.
The massive Royal Rumble of debate where there was like 20 people. They had to have 2 nights of worth of national debates.
But I feel like the first night was kind of a throwaway. Like, was there any notable speakers on the first night?
Elizabeth Warren and Beto O'Rourke. And just that. Oh, who's that? Who's that girl? And then the rest are all just characters. Like Klobuchar is a character. She's basically just like the caricature of the super shitty boss that if you imagine the worst boss that you've ever had, a slave driving boss that yells at her employees.
Yeah.
That's basically Klobuchar's like reputation.
So did they do it on purpose? Did they like stick like Bernie and like Joe and Harris all together because they just wanted a good show?
I kind of think so, but if they really wanted a show, I would have thought they would have put Warren and Sanders on the same night, because both of them, they're like the activist candidates,
Right.
So they like to yell about the injustices of everything.
Yeah.
But maybe they needed to spread them out. They needed one person yelling about the injustices every night.
Yeah. I never watched the debate until now, and I found that it's just like a fight for voice time,
It's
where everyone is just like talking over each other. No one's really respecting the moderator.
Yeah, it's a theater kind of deal. Like, before Trump, I want to say the debates were just something like, it was something that like politically active people wanted to watch it, especially in America, like the people that were sure that they were gonna vote, or they were like, they had an interest in politics, or they were like, had party membership in either one of them. Those were the people that would watch it, and then most other people wouldn't give a shit. After Trump, I think a lot more people are kind of watching it for their own candidate or whatever now.
Yeah, it's definitely kind of like a popularity contest, because they call it a debate, but no one really answers the questions that the moderator asks.
No.
They just kind of dodge it.
It
Like,
is-
unless it's about their platform, unless it's like, oh, it's shining a light on their platform, they'll talk about it. But if it's something that they're not an expert in, or they have no idea, they just kind of dodge it.
They got techniques to dodge it too. They will talk about also like their family members are like, yeah, I have an uncle I know of someone that was deeply hurt by whatever the problem is, and and that's why I feel very strongly attached to this. And he's not even answering the question. It could be something about like, what would you do to like the progressive tax levels or something, right? And then he'll talk about his working class father back then in the 60s about doing something, and then at the end he'll be like, yeah, and that's why I will fight for women's rights. That's
Pretty much, it's exactly it. It's everyone's just trying to say like, villainizing Trump, like especially Bernie. It's like, why do you think the people will vote for you? It's like, because we're gonna show Trump he's a fraud, he's a racist, da da da, and this is how we're gonna fight against them, right? And that's just what it is. It's just people just creating a narrative. But like the debates, it's almost non-existent. It's just people sharing their stories about themselves.
Yeah, it's not because you can't get a debate because everybody gets like what, a minute to talk.
Well, this one's tough because there's way too many candidates.
Yeah,
like,
you got 22 candidates too. So just right off the bat, you gotta get in there. You gotta interrupt like some other people. You can't afford to be polite in this kind of setting unless you don't want. Unless like if you want to get noticed, then you can't be polite.
Well, if you watch those highlights, one of the highlights they showed was how many people knew how to speak Spanish.
Yeah,
I'm just like, why is that so important?
This is the stupidest part. And then you saw people just like freaking like, everybody just tried their hand at Spanish, right? And then you got people that were like fluent, like fucking like whatever his name is, Julian Castro, I think is his name. He's fucking he's completely fluent. But then you get someone like Beto O'Rourke, where he says he's supposed to have some Spanish blood in him, but he looks completely like Irish or something.
And then the female candidates, they talk a lot about women power and how the women are represented, which makes sense. I totally get it.
It's easy win.
It's an easy win for them. Yeah, they get the women vote, but it didn't help enough for Hillary, unfortunately.
No, yeah, she was the penultimate women champion. Well, can't put it like that. She was slated. She had a really good shot at it.
Oh, definitely.
The back then, the woman candidate that had the most shot, it was her.
I do believe during that time people thought she was a shoo-in until
a lot of people did. Even I did.
Until the emails, until things like that, and then just scooped her up.
Nah, well, it wasn't the emails and shit that kind of damned her. It was just that she did not get at the problem. She didn't go like to the people that were actually getting destroyed in the mid states. She didn't go to the flyover states. Basically, she concentrated.
She didn't play the political game then.
Well, she thought it was in the bag for her, right?
Yeah.
And everybody was telling her that it was in the bag, so she didn't really go, I guess, campaign as hard as she could in these really disenfranchised states. And that's how she lost. Everybody likes to point to like Russian bots caused this, but if you're not insane, then no, that's not what happened. But in this case, that's 4 years ago, right? Like,
yes. Now we have more female candidates, and they're just as riled up. Some are more kookier than others.
Let's talk about this. Let's talk about first of all, let's talk about the good vibes. The guru of love, Marianne.
Marianne, yes.
Williamson.
Yeah, she's gonna fight Trump with love. That was her closing statement.
I like this. I like what she has to offer.
Yeah, you think that's what we need? We just need to.
I don't give a shit.
We need to love and hug each other more, and this is how we're gonna beat Trump.
I don't give a. It doesn't matter what the fuck we do. It's American politics. But I want. You know what? Let's get that like the Care Bear president in power.
That would be in a weird debate. With her and Trump, I don't even know what they would talk about. Trump would just be like, love. Yeah, she would just talk about like hugging and sharing, and Trump would just throw out profanity and racism.
Yeah, and then let's see, may the better candidate win.
Yeah, it'd just be such an upside down world.
I want to see this. You know what? They should do it. They got the Apprentice star as president. Why not have a hippie self-help guru spread the love?
Yeah, I don't think she spoke that much in the debate. Like other than the closing statement, I didn't really hear her.
She spoke a lot more than some other people. She actually, because they weren't gonna in this kind of debate. Sometimes the candidates on the sides, they don't get as much like good questions or to get a good opportunity to talk. Yeah. As much as the star ones. The main
definitely,
right?
Definitely the three main ones: Joe, Sanders, and Harris. They got all the attention.
Well, even more. Like Pete Buttigieg is also a main one too.
Yeah.
O'Rourke in the first one, and Warren also. They got a lot of attention on them, right?
Yeah.
Marianne is just on the side, but then I think she stepped up. She talked more than then they afforded her, I guess, time and opportunity to. She took her chances. She took her opportunities.
So what happens when you like continue talking and the monitor's like, we'll get to you.
We'll get to you. We'll get to you. You
like,
know, like,
does she
shut
like,
off the mic. Oh,
do they take over other people's time? Like, what happens then?
I think they just go. They will not. They will try and avoid asking you questions for the next couple minutes.
Oh, so they okay.
Maybe.
So they kind of penalize you in a sense.
But it's nothing to stop you, because, like, you know, you see this in debates. If it gets heated, they just start interrupting each other anyway.
Oh, totally. And if the crowd's behind them, then the monitor's like, okay,
yeah,
that's what the crowd wants to hear.
Yeah, and you can tell when Trump was doing his debate parts, yeah, he got a lot of laughs. He made fun of. He just like shit on people. He just slandered people on stage, and then the audience was loving it. And then, you know, the debate moderator was like, "Please, Mr. Trump, please, you can't order, basically order."
Yeah, the whole gavel thing.
Right? But that's what people like to see. It was just theater.
Yeah.
And this is important to also just drive home. This is more theater. This is more of a performance than anything. Like, you're not going to get actual debate. You like get into the nitty gritty of like debating between all of these people. They're not gonna go like, this is why my plan is better, and have a debate with them, and they'll be like, well, why is that? And then they explain, and there's not gonna be an explanation of shit.
There's no explanation. It's just a call of arms most of the time.
Yeah, it's just a performance. They go up there, they perform the best they can. They try to, you know, like their coaches would tell them, hey, you want to play this emotional card, you want to play this grandstanding card, you want to play this confrontational card, but also agree with this person when they say something like, you know, like supporting women. All women get paid the same as men. You, like, no matter who says it, you got to support that or whatever, right?
Yes.
They all get coached for this. This is a performance. You know, they all prepared for this. If they tried to. Even Trump back then, they would tell him, like, this is what you should say for this is what you should say for that.
But for Trump, did he listen?
But
I thought like he just went off the cuff.
Well, my point is they trained him. Like, they would tell him these things, like, this is what you should debate, this is our game plan. And then when he goes up there, it's totally up to him to just fucking start winging it and stuff.
What about Sanders? I bet he went off the rails because he was calling out a lot of different.
I don't think off the rails. Like, these are positions that he's always said.
He's always said, yeah.
So I can imagine him just sitting in front of the mirror and practicing, like, not the ideas, but the way to deliver them.
Like, just calling. I'm gonna call it the pharmaceutical. I'm gonna call it the oil and gas.
Yeah, the
insurance.
He has exactly his list of targets.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is a little soon to create enemies, I feel. But I mean, he probably always has these enemies.
That's what his whole platform is, to make them the enemies, right?
Yeah.
His platform is the activist / you know, and let's be real, it's not even a real revolutionary platform, because, you know, a revolutionary platform is a lot more heavier than that. Yeah. But he's the closest you'll get to that in like an American setting, right? Within the Democratic Party, no less.
But he also is playing the change card.
It
like
is
saying that, like, hey, if you want change, we need to upset the establishment.
I'm not saying he's like hardcore revolutionary. I'm saying he's revolutionary light. He's advocating the same stuff that usually a revolution advocates, like change outside the system, change for coming from outside the system, right?
Right. Yes.
So that's kind of what he's like going for, and so he needs to make enemies. Like, that's why his voters are voting for him, because he wants to make these entities his enemies.
Yeah.
They're the targets.
Yeah. What was the section they talked about Medicare? What you thought about that? The whole
Well, you know what I think about fucking Medicare. Well, like, you know, healthcare in general. So obviously, like, I want in a perfect world, everybody would just get healthcare, right? But let's just talk about the American perspective, I guess, right? I remember in the first night debate when it was like Warren and O'Rourke and all those guys there instead. I think the only people they asked that question is like, which one of you would advocate for a government paid out like Medicare instead of like private insurance? I think only Elizabeth Warren and de Blasio, like the New York mayor de Blasio, raised up their hands for that. I think most other people didn't buy into that shit.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure, you know, like, this is a very divisive thing in America still.
Yeah.
Right. So and then obviously the ones that are saying yeah, I want Medicare for all. I'm like, yeah, well, fucking duh, right?
Yeah, for
And
sure.
then some other, it's funny to look at the other people and see what they say and what they want to do.
Well, it really depends. I think a lot of them they support it, but it's also how they support it, right? For like Bernie, he wants to demolish all the private.
Yeah,
Uh,
completely just get rid of the
and
private
then, but
insurance.
there's others that says like, oh no, we want to find a middle ground. That's
Yeah,
like you can keep your private, and then there's the whole kind of like almost in a sense like Obamacare, where you could choose between
yeah,
the two.
going back to.
It's almost kind of going back to that, right? So, no, I do remember Bernie calling out Trump for like sending us back by getting rid of Obamacare and calling out Trump for that. So
Yeah,
I
but
remember.
Obamacare just gone the way it did because it had problems too, right?
It had problems, but at the same time, it was benefiting a lot of people.
Yeah,
It
well,
was helping people for
it
sure.
is like in the absence of nothing, at least something like this comes out, people think, hey, we're going we're going
Yeah.
that way. But also, if it turns out to be a dud, if what you came out to be was like it just didn't work, then people will be more likely to say, hey, we tried that before, but we tried to go that route of Medicare for all under the Affordable Care Act, but it didn't work out, so we're never going to do that again.
Yeah. Well,
Completely.
the biggest issue is the private insurance companies. That's
Yeah.
the biggest challenge right now.
It's almost as if you could tell who got the lobby from the private insurance
Oh,
guys just by
certainly.
whoever says what in that debate.
Actually, when they were doing that whole like voting thing, I remember one of the moderator asked Joe, "It's like, oh, so you didn't raise your hand?" He's like, "Oh, I raised my hand." Or, I didn't raise my hand. Like it was hilarious. Like he rose his hand so slow that the moderators didn't catch
That's
him.
funny. Joe is funny. You can tell that he is not good at winging it.
No, that
If
guy.
when he wings it, man, his poll numbers drop when he wings it.
You know that he doesn't speak very passionately, but there was a lot of attention brought to him. Like the moderator asked him a lot of questions.
Because
and-
he's the front runner basically. He has a
Yeah.
really high poll lead. At one point, it's lower now, but at one point he was reaching like 40% in poll numbers. I forget which poll it was, but it was high. Like Bernie's base is about like 15 or something, right? And it stays at that ish. Everyone else, you'll get like 15 to 10 or whatever. And then a majority of the people, especially with all 20 people running, they're single digits, right? So Biden getting even like plus 20, 30 was a big lead. But that's only if he doesn't open his mouth and talk. in public. Once he does that, it always drops him down a little bit because he says some stupid shit, and he also says it in the way that fucking is that Biden effect.
So I only know Biden through the scandals, but what makes him a
Scandals.
good president?
Well, let's see
Or,
what scandals. What scandals?
I just hear the word creepy is.
Yeah, he's creepy as shit. Like basically, like don't have your kids near him or something.
Exactly.
Like that.
Yeah, that's
They got some memes out
that's
there.
the internet memes.
They have
there.
memes out there. Yeah, the way
Yeah.
he let's just say greet children.
But in some ways, having memes is a sign of success. It
Yeah.
means that people notice you.
yeah,
right?
unless the memes are detrimental to you, you don't want that as a one.
I don't know. Like Trump has a lot of memes.
He's like
and
that creepy uncle that comes up to just a little bit too close when he says hello.
Yes, you gotta learn the what's his name.
Yeah, keep your distance a little bit, Joe.
He has to know the Keanu Reeves method. Where you take pictures in a way that you just can't get
Hover hand.
hover hands. Yes, the safest way.
Yeah. So yeah, Biden's got the commanding lead. He's also says the controversial shit. And I guess the most talked about highlight of that debate was when Kamala Harris just kind of called Biden out for some stuff he said in a previous talk about past I think congressmen or senators that were like openly racist.
Right.
And did you know that background story?
No, I didn't know.
So,
this one.
did you see the highlight where she kind of called him out on it, and she talked about, I was the.
I
little
thought she
girl
said,
on the
"I don't
bus."
think you're a racist."
I don't think you're a racist, but
But
what you
okay.
said,
But yeah,
what
which
you
kind
said
of
was
violates.
not-
I don't think
was
you're a
not
racist.
good or whatever, right?
Yes, yeah, I do remember Harris calling him out.
Yeah. So that what she's referring to is Biden gave a talk where he kind of just said, "Oh yeah, I wish things would. Sometimes I wish the good old days would just so today would kind of be like the good old days." As in, he was talking about people coming together, like Democrats and Republicans and like forming consensus and working together in that regards. And then he said, just like these so and so people, like these senators and these congressmen, which back then they were nice guys or swell guys, and we come together despite our disagreements and we'd work stuff out. And the thing is, what he what he really bombed was those people that he mentioned and name dropped. They were like big racist segregationist guys. So he's basically saying, yeah, they're just kind of racist, but at least at the end of the day we came together, got stuff done. And then and people just fucking threw up, what the fuck are you talking about?
Sometimes you don't. Yeah,
that's what Harris was getting at. She was like, what the fuck are you talking about?
She seemed very passionate about that.
Yeah.
No, when she was talking about it, she lost me. I wasn't sure exactly what she was.
Yeah, that was the background for that. See, the debate is useless because you had to, like, if you didn't know what the hell's going on, you'd be like, all you'll get is, whoa, she's mad at that old guy. I don't know why. Oh shit, people are applauding now. She must have said something. Yeah, he's fucking.
Who was the youngin who called out Joe? It's like, when I was a kid, a presidential candidate talked to me and told me that we need to pass the torch to the young ones. And then he's like, that politician was Joe Biden. Yeah, Joe, you gotta pass the torch. And then when Joe's turn, it's like, no, I'm holding on to that torch, buddy.
Motherfucker. How dare you? Oh fuck, who was it? Joe passed the torch. It was one of those guys where it's like, even some like people that follow politics, they're watching, they're like, who the fuck is that guy?
Yeah, I didn't know. I think he was from New York. Maybe a senator in New York or something.
I think he was a senator. Let me see. Swalwell. I think it was Eric Swalwell. He was the guy that said that, and he's got he's got a little boyish look too.
Yeah, he definitely has the Captain America.
That haircut. That haircut is like what you'd see in like one of those private schools where everybody has to dress up, and this guy.
Oh, he's definitely a cadet for sure. certainly. But yeah, I thought that was hilarious when he called out Joe, and then Joe, he's like, I'm gonna hold on to that torch a bit longer here.
Joe is like, he's like, fuck, I shouldn't have said that bullshit. Who knew this cocksucker was gonna say
remember this kid. He was just like, I said that. What?
Well, that he's been around for so long that obviously he hung out with like racist senators and shit back then because it was just a whole shit ton of them.
Boys club back then, yeah.
Yeah, and then now it's like, fucking yeah, I remember telling kids to fucking follow your dreams and pass the torch or some shit. What the fuck? Why is this asshole saying this right now? God damn it, that kid grew up.
Yes.
Piece of shit. He is very old. Him and Bernie are very old.
Oh yeah. Definitely. I think ageism was a question to them, I think. Wasn't it?
Well, because the follow-up was, because when Swalwell dropped that, basically just saying, yeah, you're too fucking old, man. Like, what are you doing? And then Bernie came in and said, like, the problems we're facing is not a generational problem. It's more of like, it's like, can you even just get to the problem? You need to point out who the bad guys are, and you got to deal with it, or something like that.
Yeah.
Right? I think he came out after Swalwell made that comment, like, Joe, you're too fucking old, man. The fuck.
Though yes, I do love Bernie's passion, and I think he is right. It's not a generation problem. It's everyone's facing it.
He's got a lot of appeal because he is that activist guy. He is he's the closest thing you'll get to like a socialist in the Democratic Party.
Yeah. Well, they call that out too, though.
Yeah, like a Democratic. He's not even like a real. He's like
not even
socialist light. Yeah.
But they were saying like, if the Democrats elect a socialist, that we're gonna lose to Trump. That the voters aren't gonna vote for a socialist. They were saying.
Yeah, I mean, what are you gonna get? Like, what is Trump now? Something. It's like that saying where like, if you need a wolf. If you need to like hunt a wolf, you need to get a wolf to hunt a wolf or some shit like that, right? Fucking what are you gonna get? You're gonna get good old Joe Biden, the Democratic centralist, to go against Trump, and just get railroaded, just get destroyed.
I'm not too sure what Trump is, but he's very good at solving problems that he makes. Like, remember how he was about to nuke or airstrike a bunch of people in Iran, and he's like, oh no, I told him to hold off. I thought about it, and it's like, how many people are we going to kill? And they're like, we're going to hold on for that, Mr. President. Comes back with the number. Let's not do it. And he looks like a hero, which is so silly. And then like the military is like, what? No, that was never the story. It was on the first point of the presentation. How many casualties? And
he probably wasn't paying attention. He's like, yeah, sure, whatever, fuck it.
I was just, oh man, I'm surprised. I was baffled.
At least he didn't do it. That's the main part.
Yeah, at least he didn't do it.
It
Like,
was almost it's by the skin of his
but the
teeth.
thing was, it was his action. He was the one who started it.
It was by the skin of his teeth, but still, he at least at the end he called it back.
Yeah, like he is causing so much conflict around the world with trade wars with China. Like,
I'll tell you about this. This Iran thing is not. It's not 100% on him because a lot of people. Well, it's his fault that he surrounded himself with these people in his cabinet, but a lot of people just want to go to war with Iran in the U.S. Government establishment and all.
What do you think?
Muslim
It's
factions.
just like he gave up on the wall and he's moving on to Iran. Is that?
No, I don't think he wants to talk about Iran too much. I think he wants to talk about the wall more than anything.
I felt like the wall story's been kind of silenced for a while.
It's on the back foot because ever since they, like
The Democrat controls the House and just aren't
and
doing
also their filibuster, I guess you can call it, didn't work.
Oh yes, the fellow. That's a silly thing to have in a government party, isn't it? The filibuster.
Yeah, it's just a tantrum, right?
Yeah, well, it's like a stall tactic.
It is.
And it doesn't get anything done. Which, I mean, if you look at the American government, I feel like nothing's getting done.
No, yeah, the whole thing is designed so if they don't want to get stuff done, they will really not get stuff done. And if they really do want to get stuff done,
Yeah.
then they really, really have to try to get just a part of it done.
How would you explain the filibuster for our viewers here?
Well, that specific one, what was it called again? It was basically like they refused to meet up and discuss funding for government employees or some shit. Fuck,
Yeah,
it was
you
such a
you
long time ago.
basically, I think it's like kind of like you need a vote to talk about an issue. Like if you want to vote on an issue
Is it-
before that,
You're just
you-
delaying it. You're
you
not
have
letting
to-
the vote go
yeah.
through.
because the filibuster is like, oh, if not enough people agree to talk about something, then we're not going to talk about it.
I don't want to get into specifics because the way it works is different in a lot of countries, so I could get some stuff wrong. But
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
that's basically it. Like, and it was just for the wall. Like, they held that hostage in I think it was the Democrats that held. Oh my god, I
Like
have to read.
you're talking about like when did the
It's basically-
filibuster first came up?
It was basically the Republicans wanted to get shit done for the wall. Democrats didn't, and then in doing so, they made this the battleground, like the employee funding and salaries for government employees. They made that the battleground for the wall. That's
I see.
basically as general, but to the point as I can make. Specifically, I can't remember
You're right.
what procedure, what happened, and what like who said what and what happened on the floor. I can't remember that shit. I'd have to read up on again, but that
Alright.
was basically the gist of it. Because of this one other issue, they decided to take hostage this, like paying government employees.
So then why? So what's the issue with Iran? Why do people want to go to war with them?
Ooh, this would probably take a while to explain, and I could get some stuff wrong on this too. With Iran, it's a little bit to do in history. It's a little bit to do with the country of Iran itself, and it has a big portion to do with Israel, and just the U.S. military kind of influence itself in the government. So what happened in a little bit of history? Iran actually used to be a really close U.S. ally for a bit. What happened in the 50s was before then Iran was kind of a British. It was under British control, more or less. Like kind of think of it like a colony or whatever, right? But not really as colonial like as they did with like Hong Kong or India.
Okay.
But British, they ran the shit in Iran and like Iraq and those places, I think. But then they had to give up their like their possessions, their colonial possessions and shit after World War II. So like Iran was starting to come into itself as like its own country.
Right.
Britain wanted to keep more of like more control over it, but like the way it was going, and the way America wanted things, America kind of wanted Britain to go back to get out of stuff, and America itself wanted to kind of insert itself. So what happened was Iran got kind of independent. Iran was independent at that point, and they elected a guy named Mossadegh. But this guy wanted to nationalize all the oil fields and all the oil assets in Iran for Iran, right? He didn't want like British Petroleum to still own assets in Iran.
Oh, okay.
Stuff like that. So then Britain appealed to America to try to deal with this guy, right? So America and Britain jointly instigated like a coup. Like they overthrew the Mossadegh and installed the Shah. His last name was, I think, Pahlavi or something. The Shah of Iran. And he used to be like royalty in Iran before he was like run out of the country. Basically, they overthrew Mossadegh, the guy that got elected, and installed him as leader, the Shah. When the Shah was, and he was, he's buddy with America and Britain, right? So they installed him, and then he allowed, British Petroleum and whoever to come back in and keep their assets and keep them buying more and profiting from Iran's oil fields, right? From British Petroleum. And I think I can't remember if there was a big American presence in there. I think there was as well in the Iranian oil. But basically, as long as the Shah was in power, they were all buddies. They're buddies with America and Britain.
Right.
But this guy, like his administration was quite corrupt, and obviously people are not happy that the guy that they wanted to be leader got deposed. So eventually, this all just blew up in the 70s.
Yeah.
And that's where that movie Argo comes from Ben Stiller.
Wait, Barton Stiller?
No, not Ben. Ben Affleck. Sorry,
Ben Affleck,
fuck
yeah.
Ben Stiller. He's just wrong guy.
That's the one with the they're trying to get these people out.
Yeah.
From Canada, right?
The American. They're trying to get American like embassy out of Iran by posing as a Canadian film crew.
Well, the part I remember really well in that movie is that they used a paper shredder that did the long lines, and then they had these little kids that are like getting all these little shreds and assembling them, trying to figure out who they're trying to look for. And I was just like, wow, those shredders are garbage.
Yeah, they're
like nowadays because the shredders now we use they're crosshatch, right?
Yeah,
and they make the like little pieces. Like it'll take you forever, but like long strips, yeah, that's just I can't believe no one saw the design flaw.
All right, buddy, let's stop this shredder segue for a second. Oh man. Okay, yeah, that's good, Brian. With the shredders. Anyways, but the background of that movie is when the Iranian Revolution happened. That's what I'm trying to get at. People
got it.
Fucking shredders came in. All right. So what happened then was basically these hardliners, these like really religious, the religious faction of Iran basically got enough support from the people and enough anger from the people to overthrow the Shah, right? Mm-hmm. So then after they overthrew the Shah, like they got the Ayatollah. Back then was Khomeini, I think, or Khamenei. I forget which one is what, because it's kind of confusing because the current one is very similar in the titles to the old one. Anyways, so they got the old Ayatollah to come back and basically become an Islamic republic, right?
Okay.
This power is hostile to the United States and Britain. So the Shah that they overthrew was very friendly to both America and Britain.
Right.
After the Iranian Revolution, where they overthrew the Shah, the new Iran, the Islamic Republic of Iran, the Iran that we know today, the modern Iran, is hostile.
Right.
Right? Well, America and Britain are also, it's not just a one-way street. They're hostile to them as well because they overthrew their guy. They overthrew their guy in the region, right?
They overthrew the original guy, yeah.
Yeah. So then they kicked out the American companies and they kicked out British Petroleum and all these like outside foreigner, influences, and America and Britain did not like that at all. And during the revolutionary fervor, when they were just freshly overthrew the Shah, that's when Argo came in because there's a bunch of American embassy personnel that were trapped there, right?
Yeah.
And also, and they were trapped there for like 444 days ish. I think so, right? That was how long they were trapped there for.
I
remember it was really weird. It was like a 444 day. The number 4 was very prominent. And either way, they were.
I just remember they were trying to pretend to be Canadian when they were trying to
sneak
escape.
him out.
To sneak them
and,
out. Yes.
At that time, President Carter, who was president of America at that time, authorized a mission from the special forces to go and try to extract all the American expats that were still there and the embassy people that were still there. So the whole plan was for U.S. Army and U.S. Marine Special Forces to get into Iran and extract them out, like Black Hawk Down style or whatever, right?
Yes.
What happened was that turned out to be a big clusterfuck because it was during a sandstorm at the staging area. Like a Marine helicopter crashed into like an Air Force plane that was loading up the Special Forces soldiers.
Oh.
Like the staging area where they're preparing to go for the mission,
Yeah.
crashed into it, just destroyed a whole bunch of shit, like just shit all over the place, right? And then that I mentioned that because that's one of the reasons why the American, like the military
Right.
guys, the faction really want to get back at Iran. It's kind of like they have this grudge. They want to get some payback for that humiliating kind of like operation that kind of really failed
Right.
in Iran, right? Like they showed up the wreck, like the Iranian TV at that time. After this happened, they showed the wreckage and they showed like just basically trophies of this disaster to the world through the television, right?
Right.
It was a big embarrassment for the military,
But-
and that also sunk Carter's presidency at that time.
Right.
So America just has this grudge against Iran because, first of all, they interfered in their country a long time ago. If you want to talk about Russian interference in 2016, this is what you call interference, right? Just overthrew the elected Mossadegh by a coup, installed their own Shah for a couple decades, and then they're really pissed because the people were not happy with the Shah, overthrew him, and then the Americans tried to fucking do something about it, and then they got egg on their face. So that is like the historical part where they hate him. Now the geopolitical part is Iran is situated right in a very, very important waterway, the Persian Gulf-ish around their area.
Okay.
Basically, a shit ton of the world's oil and tanker traffic goes through that area, right? It's a strategic part of the world where America wishes they had a lot more control in it, but Iran is this country there that does not like them, and they don't like each other. And Iran is right there at this, at the Persian Gulf, at this strategic goods chokeway, right? They don't like that. So any reason that they can get to deal with this or get rid of them from that area or diminish their influence in their strategic, proximity to that area, any way to just screw up Iran, they'll try to take it, right?
How would they go to war without having UN?
They'll let they go to war without having UN anything.
Well, what I'm trying to say is like, won't they get policed by UN? Because
No.
it's like, isn't it illegal to just go to war with
Okay,
someone?
well, even if it was illegal, what's the UN gonna do? You're gonna go to war with America?
That is true. I mean,
Exactly. Like the whole world doesn't actually run on laws. It runs on power. Like who has the power to do things about
Right.
anything, right? Like it doesn't even matter. Like America, it was illegal for them to kind of go to war in Iraq. They did it anyways.
Yeah,
They
sure.
made a whole coalition.
well, they made up a story why they went.
Well,
to
still,
it.
they went to the UN Security Council. Remember, Colin Powell did his famous speech to the UN,
Yeah.
to his presentation to outline their call for action against Iraq, right? Saying that they're developing weapons of mass destruction in the UN. That's where he did the speech.
Yes.
They wanted to get the UN on it. The UN said no, and America said, "Fuck it, we'll do it anyway."
Yeah.
And then they just went in.
Yeah. And then it was proved that they weren't really doing.
Yeah. Well, the point is, they can do whatever the fuck they want. The UN can't do shit to
Yes.
stop them.
Well, I guess what I'm more interested in what their cover-up story is, even if it's not true. Curious what they're just gonna blame them on.
Yeah, this will be like the part where like, wow, what will be the reason, right?
Yeah. Like even if it's a fake reason, I'm curious what the reason might
like
be.
a Gulf of Tonkin reason, like a red flag incident, right?
Yeah, exactly.
No, but another angle to this is Israel. As you know, America and Israel like super close. They're like BFFs, right? Regardless of all the reasons, everybody can get into it. They're just super close, and America basically helps Israel in almost everything in their foreign policy. And Israel and Iran do not like each other. Iran
the whole
basically-
like the holy site and the
well, no,
palace
it's
and all
just
that
it's just the way Israel is. Like a lot of the Arab countries in the area did not like Israel when it was formed.
yeah.
So it was like it's a whole separate issue, right, with Palestine and everything.
Yes, Palestine. Yes.
And Iran is also one of those countries that hates Israel as well. And they said some shit back then. It's like, we'd fuck you up if America wasn't there or whatever, right? Stuff like that. So Israel has a really keen interest in just taking Iran to eat shit, right? So all these factors together, there's a lot of people in the U.S. establishments that don't like Iran, um, and Trump's also surrounded himself with some of the most hawkish of hawks, like John Bolton. If you ever see John Bolton, I mentioned it before. He's got a big bushy mustache. He looks terrible. He is like the hawk of hawks.
Well,
He is the warlord's warlord.
I think we talked about this prior to Trump being elected.
Yeah.
But like, if Hillary was empowered, this would have happened anyways, right?
They might. It's a really higher chance of her going in because they remember Trump's reason why he called off the airstrike was like, man, 150 people killed
Wow, okay.
for like shooting down a drone, right? Like just, no one dies.
The
from a
way he
drone.
told the story made it sound like the military was incompetent.
Either way, his reason was, like he was hesitant about 150 people.
Yeah.
The casualty of, like.
I think if Hillary was to do it,
Hillary doesn't care.
she has the intent of doing
Hillary
it.
does not.
Whereas Trump was like fumbling to
Hillary
do
would
it.
not give a shit about 150 people. Like, she wouldn't give a shit at all. And that would be one of the main differences. Like, Trump, if you want to call it like he's too scared to go to war or he just doesn't go to war, or if you're really a big fan of him, he just, he doesn't want people to die.
Yeah.
That is different. Like, him not wanting to go through that is different from Hillary, who is always willing, like more than willing to go through something.
I definitely
like that.
see Hillary has the fierceness, whereas Trump is he's a buffoon.
Backs
in a sense.
down when shit gets that serious. Right?
Oh wow.
Hillary would go all in.
Well, the view of Trump in Britain is the baby, right? They have the whole float for him.
Yeah.
Which actually I think Trump is pretty upset with. I think when he was visiting London, he requested that wasn't flown.
He was very salty.
Yes.
He does not like anything that kind of like slanders him. That just.
Oh yeah, but late nights they always talk about him.
That's why he hates the late night shows. He only watches like Fox and Friends.
Well, yeah, because that's the only one that talks nice about him.
Yeah, and he only wants to watch stuff that talks nicely
Yeah.
about him. But that's kind of like the background reasons why they want to go to war with Iran, right? That's why you're hearing a lot of this shit. Like, and also they had the sanctions and stuff, where Iran was enriching uranium, and America was fearing that they were enriching uranium to build a bomb.
Oh yeah, is
nuke
it like
bomb.
uranium-258?
But Iran their reason was we're enriching uranium for uranium power plants.
Oh, nuclear.
For nuclear power plants, right?
Right.
And then that whole deal that Obama came out before was, like they'll stop the uranium enrichments, and in return, the U.S. will drop sanctions against them because ever since the Iranian Revolution, there's been lots of sanctions.
Wasn't there also inspectors that said that they were following?
Yeah. Like the deal
policy?
was also like you needed to have international inspectors come in and inspect that you weren't enriching in
And
uranium.
it seems like they were following.
Yeah, they say like Iran had they did not violate the terms, right?
Yeah.
Like they wanted to get their oil to like world market and shit. They wanted to make money.
So
and
just
stuff
basically Trump just turning the table around. He's just changing the rules.
Yeah, he was basically his whole shtick was like why that deal was a bad deal in the first place. It shouldn't have been made.
The
Right?
worst trade deal ever.
Yeah, and a little bit of that is also goading from these very anti-Iranian like people and organizations and stuff like that, right?
Right.
And they wanted a more tougher response. They wanted a more tougher action against Iran. They felt that Obama was being very weak by coming up with this deal back then.
Right.
They wanted it gone, right? They wanted to be just tough and only tough against Iran. They only wanted to fucking just goading them into a fight.
So seems like the United States is kind of making enemies with everyone.
Yeah.
Like Canada and Mexico with the whole like getting rid of NAFTA, China with the trade deals, Cuba, and making restrictions on travel.
Yeah.
Starting war with Iran, like
India too. Like there's
like,
embargoes against all these countries.
Who are their friends now? Like is North Korea their friend?
That's the thing, right? Like if you are saying that, hey, we're gonna be isolationists, we're gonna look after only ourselves, like it's time to fucking put tariffs on everybody else. When it comes time for you to ask for cooperation or you need help from other countries to do stuff, they're not gonna help you. They're not gonna really cooperate on anything anymore, right?
Yeah.
Like, if you want to be isolationist, fine, but it's the way that you become what that isolationist, right? Like inward looking. If you're doing it at the cost and at the in pain of everyone else, then everyone else is gonna like look at you like, what the fuck, man? Why are you doing this? But it bodes well for me because, well, not just me. It bodes well for people that don't want to see America be so just so in your face about everything, like so trying to dominate all the regions of the world, right? Nowadays, you don't need a power like that to do that anyway. So, yeah, if they want to be isolationists, I'm all for it. They can be isolationists as long as they don't fucking start wars and shit. I'm happy.
I mean, I would say, I don't know. I don't know if a war would happen. It could have happened when Trump.
If Trump
didn't call off.
If this happened, it would be a disaster of a war.
Yeah,
I think.
And the worst would be like, how did it start? Oops, I forgot to call it off.
Yeah, like Iran is very. It is quite different from Iraq too, because if you recall, Americans already had a big foothold in to invade Iraq because of the prior Gulf War, where Saudi Arabia wanted America to come and repel Saddam's advancing army into, and that was already inside Kuwait, right? So America's got a big staging ground in Saudi Arabia to build up however many fucking people there was, like 150,000 people, troops.
Right.
And go straight into Iraq. And Iraq is pretty much just flat ground. Like, it's the perfect kind of country for airstrikes against a conventional army and everything, right? Okay. That's where you got the whole highway of death, where it's basically the U.S. Air Force just waging war on them by themselves against like Saddam Hussein, right?
Yes.
Desert Storm was the majority just the Air Force just bombing the shit out of Saddam. What you get with Iran is you're not gonna get such a fucking advantage that you had during the Gulf War and the second Iraq War going in, right? Iran is very mountainous. It's quite powerful. It's got enough of a competent enough military to put up a really good fight on the ground. Like, think of like the tenacity of like North Vietnam and the Viet Cong in Vietnam, right? Those guys, they're quite scrappy, and also the terrain is very mountainous, and Iran's a big country. It's gonna take a lot more troops to even think about occupying Iran, if you even get to occupying Iran at that point. And then you have to deal with like everybody in the mountains, and like everybody in Iran would be, just on a single mindset just to repel a U.S. invasion, right? So I think the U.S. could do a lot of damage, a shit ton of damage to Iran, just like, if they really wanted to just fucking airstrikes and bombings and just for days on end.
Yeah.
But they're not going to capitulate from airstrikes, right? They've had like decades of American embargoes where, they've already see America as the enemy trying to wipe them out. This is just going to make them even want to resist even harder. So you're not going to submit them by bombing. Yeah, they're not going to submit even if you destroy their economy. They're just going to wait until, you leave and they build up, or they're just going to hate you anyways.
Right.
And do counterattacks however they can. And the worst part would be if you think about landing troops in Iran. If America decides to land troops in Iran and invade, like with ground forces, then that's where like America would probably. I don't know. I think they might have to institute the draft just to get enough manpower to do something like that. Like this would require a shit ton of people. It would require much more of a national mobilization than Iraq did.
Right.
And I think like you're gonna see a lot of people just fucking die. Like you'll see like Vietnam era numbers, like 70,000, like close to 70,000 people dead at the end of that war.
It's interesting that we're still talking about the number of people. Like now that we have like unmanned air or unmanned drones and like robotics.
Yeah.
I'm curious how much of those are being utilized.
The funny thing is,
because that's how it started with the whole like, should we airstrike Iran, right? Because they shot down an American
and the funny
drone.
thing about that drone was $220 million.
Wait, how is that drone so expensive?
Yeah, exactly. So then at that point, it's like, oh, you might as well send a guy in because the guy is cheaper than that drone. But The reason why
Wait,
it's
no,
expensive,
drones are supposed to be cheap.
they are, but the reason why it's very expensive, the American ones are, is because the American defense companies have a really big, they have a really big say in these kind of things. They have a really outsized influence. Cheap, they don't like cheap. They want the government to spend lots of money on very expensive weapon systems, right? So drones being cheap does not bode well
Yeah,
for
but it's not
Lockheed
going to be
Martin.
2 million.
220 million.
Oh my gosh.
Drones being cheap does not bode well for like Lockheed Martin or Raytheon or like
Yeah.
those guys, right? So the U.S. Air Force wants a drone, and then whatever, Lockheed would be like, yeah, okay, we'll give you a drone, but we're gonna fucking load it. It was gonna be the Ferrari of drones, right? They're gonna put everything into this global hawk drone, and then it comes out to be a $220 million.
But the word drone, you make it think like it's supposed to be mass produced.
They loaded it with a bunch of shit. They put in like air conditioning and a moonroof and fucking
Interesting.
lane assistance. They loaded that drone up just to make it $220 million.
I did look up about air conditioning.
Please,
You know
let's not
those
talk about air conditioning.
You know what I'm talking about here?
Okay,
Alright.
fine. If it's short, let's do it.
Alright. You know the portable ones that people buy?
Yeah.
They're like the worst ones. They're
Okay.
very inefficient.
Uh-huh.
The better ones are like the ones you see in Hong Kong, those little box ones that you put on your windows.
And then it makes that gross brown stain.
Yeah,
on the top.
but they're efficient. They're converting because the reason the portables are bad is because it takes out warm air and makes it cold. Like that's what all air conditioner does.
Yeah.
But the thing is, the way it's designed, it takes back the cold air that it produced.
Oh, it's not efficient.
Yeah, so it's not efficient, and it breaks a lot more, and it's.
I see.
Yeah, I mean the nice side is that it's portable and it doesn't take up your window, but other than that, it's terrible.
All right, we done?
Yes. So if you have a choice, buy the central one. And then if you don't have that choice, the window one.
I'm amazed how you can go on such a tangent in the middle of all this for air conditioning. Holy.
Well, I was thinking like if I were to get an air conditioner, what should I get?
Okay, yeah, forget all that. Yeah, the drone is $220 million. Deal with it, man. To put it in perspective, an F-16 costs about $40 million.
That's just insane because I work in a company that works with drones and they're not that expensive.
No, but you can make it if you want to.
Yeah,
That's
you
some
could make it expensive.
American ingenuity, If they need to make it a drone expensive, they'll make a drone
Because
expensive.
Lockheed, they bought out one of our companies here, and
Oh, yeah?
we have a Lockheed in Martin in
Oh,
here. Yeah.
So you're saying, not your company though, right?
No.
I was about to say, you've become American defense contractor.
Well, we are. I think maybe a team. They do work with some militaries.
Mhm.
Well, we do design things for military and stuff like that.
Okay. You design technologies to kill people, confirmed. Okay.
Well, so America's interesting because they control GPS, right?
Yeah,
Because of
yeah,
American
yeah.
base, but they essentially made it for free for everyone. The only stipulation is they made it like everyone has basically the free version,
Yeah.
but there's a paid version that only the American
it's a
military
lot more advanced. Pinpoint.
access.
It's very.
Yeah, it's more
very,
accurate than the free version, but the free version is really good already. Like everyone utilize it with Google's GPS and with the navigation, so
Mhm.
it's really great for civilians already. But they do
But-
have a paid version for the American military
Of
that
course.
works even better.
Well, not even like a paid version. They have the original version is for the American.
Yeah, the
military.
original version was for the American military.
It is a
then
military.
They wanted to give civilian, and then they gave it, and then the initial release of GPS when they gave it civilian is they added a huge nerf to it, so
Yeah,
it made it really
of course,
inaccurate.
Of course.
And then people were saying like, "Hey, this is not good enough," and then they kind of leaned back and took away that nerf, and then now it's good. But yeah, it can be better. But obviously, they reserve it for the military. I think the idea is that if the United States ever do go to war, that they would turn it off for everyone, and
Yeah,
then
no shit.
only the military.
You
has
have
it.
to be on good terms with the Americans to be ever assured that you're going to use GPS
Yeah.
forever
But
uninterrupted.
it also like GPS is kind of a integrated system in the whole world that I feel like it's kind of like it shouldn't be theirs to control. Even it is technically they're giving it to us for free, and I mean in a sense they are controlling it.
That's why China has their own GPS system too.
Well, the way GPS works is everyone's working together. So China's tossed their satellites up. Japan has their own geosynchronous, but the America system is the biggest.
The biggest one, yeah.
Yeah,
for
the
sure.
biggest constellation, right? So if everyone's working together and sharing, it makes everyone benefit. So that like the Europeans has theirs. This is called Galileo. I think China is called Compass.
No, yeah, Beidou.
Beidou. Yep. Oh yeah, Beidou. Yep. Was or maybe it was Japan's Compass. Anyways, yeah. And then what was Glass? Isn't
Glasnost.
GLONASS was
Yeah, Russia.
Russia's. Yeah. So everyone has their own, I guess. So I guess even if America did turn it off for everyone, I mean, people have limited versions of their own countries.
Not everybody, because
well, those countries that I listed, but yeah.
Yeah, you're basically talking just the European Union, Japan, China, and Russia, basically.
Yes.
Maybe India. I'm not sure, but it's.
I don't think India yet.
Yeah, but if you think about like every other country in the world, they're not gonna have their own system. They're gonna have to use one of these ones.
Well, as long as
if GPS is unavailable.
Yeah, if suddenly everyone went to war with each other.
and that's one of the things people don't consider. If major powers go to war, they're knocking out those satellite systems. They're knocking them out. Like they're gonna
Certainly.
be jamming and also physically destroying these satellites if a hot war ever starts.
Yeah.
So like you're not gonna have GPS working for you at that point, because at that point, if they're at a hot war, they're not gonna requisition satellites for civilian use. The military is gonna gather up all that they can for military use at that
What
point.
I would think is rather than turning it off, you could like spoof it, so then you make planes like crash into each other.
That's electronic, like that's the electronic warfare, like cyber warfare, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think that's what I always thought the next war would be online. That everyone is just like hacking each other.
Yeah. Well, it would be less targeting civilian airliners and more like just disrupting economic activity to a major
exactly.
degree.
Like hitting Wall Street and just plummeting the stocks and like screwing up people's
accounts.
Yeah, making people's bank account go to zero.
Well, yeah, like stuff like your life would be quite affected.
Yes.
And that's not to talk about like,
And that would be a hard war to fight, because you would have these militaries with guns and like, what are you gonna do when your bank account's zero?
Well, they'll be fine. The military, like it doesn't rely on electronic accounts and shit for acquisition. Like they'll be fine. They're supposed to be designed to also fight in, if need be, like zero information environment as well. Like if you're a competent military, and I know the U.S. and China has these plans where they have tactical plans for like how to fight if there's no GPS, there's no radio, there's no connection to anything.
So they have to learn like what, Morse code?
Well, not Morse code, but they, like they have stuff to do. Like they can send runners, they can send signals, they can have encrypted like signals and shit that they can send. But like the missiles themselves, they have a backup, right? And most of them are guided by GPS.
Yes.
The guided ones. If they lose the GPS connection, they have an internal like topography, I guess, system, guidance system where they kind of scan the ground or some shit like that. They have backups for these things. If GPS is knocked out.
Yeah, if your GPS is knocked out, I mean, they're still we navigated way before GPS.
Yeah, so
we still have the stars and sun used to be. It's the old system.
Gyros, magnetic field. Yeah, they use all of that instead, right? So. Who will really get shit on is everybody living the civilian life, and all our conveniences.
Oh yeah, living. Totally. If you're trying to get to your friend's house and you're relying on Google, and Google's like, recalculating.
Yeah, fuck that. Like Google's gone, the internet is gone. Just imagine the internet possibly being gone as well.
Yes.
Right.
It's interesting when these systems kind of become the norm, like the world, like YouTube becoming the only platform for videos, and Google becoming the only search engine. And then the problem with being the only one is that suddenly the world looks at you as the police. Like, how are you making us think a certain way? Like, so there was a story with Veritas, and they had done some interviews with these high execs in Google, and they blurred their faces. And I think in some of the Google reps saying like, oh, they didn't know they were being filmed and stuff like that. But essentially, it was kind of like talking about like, is Google censoring the right wing, the conservative views, right? Because if you Google like Hillary's emails, there's no autocomplete. But if you Google like Donald Trump, it autocompletes to saying like, is Donald Trump racist? Is Donald Trump going to war? It's things like that.
Yeah.
right? And so they were saying like, oh, Google's being biased, and they were also saying like things like, if you search up the word CEO, it would primarily show male CEOs, right? And they're saying like how Google is shaping the world. Though in Google's defense, because like it does have a section saying women CEO and stuff like that, or that I think in Google's like saying, well, if the world is trending a certain way, us showing what the world is isn't like pushing an agenda. We're just trying to show what the world is currently thinking, right? So I think if there are more women CEO, that if you type the word CEO, you will see more women. But at the moment right now, if you were to Google image search CEO, it's primarily men. Anyways, Veritas is trying
Holy
to...
fuck! I was just thinking like, what are you talking about originally?
Oh, okay. So Veritas is basically trying
Holy God.
they're trying to pin Google into being censoring the news in a sense.
Yeah.
How, like, I think I think this comes to that 2020 election where, Google potentially has a lot of power in influencing people to vote for Democrats.
Yeah.
Right. And so, and this was also the issue with YouTube, right? With what's his name, Steven Crowder.
Yeah, Crowder.
Yeah. So like he's a very conservative, and he got hit really hard by the Vox hammer when he called out Carlos.
Yeah, that guy.
The gay Latino.
The gay Latino.
Well, and yeah, so basically Steven, he's always made fun of him and always called him like, it's mostly like, they're not nice names, but it wasn't like anything outrageous.
They had beef with each other.
Yeah, and basically Carlos just called YouTube out on it and made a compilation video of all Steven, and if put together, it seems like Steven is like being a big racist or a bigot. But in reality, it's spread across many videos. So I'm not saying he isn't one, but it's not like he's that mean of a person that the video showed. Anyways, Carlos won. He got YouTube to demonetize all of Crowder's videos, and so Crowder is, well, I don't know if he's struggling. If anything, I think it strengthens his audience.
I don't think he's struggling too much either, because I think he sells merch.
He sells merch, but the thing is, he is not getting monetized on YouTube.
Yeah.
Right, and he hasn't done anything wrong. Like he didn't cross any of the terms and stuff. Like I think he does have a lawyer that's gonna try to settle a lawsuit.
What you could say is there's probably people that have done worse than Crowder and they didn't get censored. But I'm not a fucking fan of Crowder anyway. I think he's an idiot anyway. So if he gets demonetized, I'm like, fuck it, whatever, laugh at him. But I know what you're saying. Like, is this a problem if Google and Twitter and all these big media companies, they have outsized influence?
It depends on what YouTube stands for, right? Is YouTube supposed to be an anonymous platform where anyone can say anything and they're just a service provider, or are they a private company that, if we don't like something, we're gonna shut you down?
I think people just like to fucking they like to just trying to project these values onto these companies that they themselves think that they need to do, but I think it is kind of just a little projection. Like YouTube, as a private company, they do decide whatever the fuck
they are a private company. Yeah,
they're not like the second. What was the amendment? That's the free speech. Is that the First Amendment?
Yeah, I think it's the first.
Fuck, I'm gonna get
first or second
if I get this wrong.
Well, here's another issue.
No, but like what I'm saying is like they don't have to abide by that shit. Like they don't. They're not like some government the government censoring your speech. They're a private company. They say whatever the fuck they want. They can ban you for whatever the fuck they want.
Yeah, if you're talking about something that YouTube doesn't like, they can. Well, the other issue I think is how is YouTube making money, right? Because majority of their money are coming from ads, right? Because we kind of taken advantage of how the system works, which is that it's free to the consumers. But the downside is that the ads pay YouTube, and therefore YouTube has to conform with ad-friendly things, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like if people paid YouTube like as a service, then YouTube wouldn't have to rely on ads, and therefore doesn't need to censorship.
Yeah, but if you pay YouTube, then people are not going to go on YouTube anymore. It becomes something like
well, if there's a wide range of people who pay, because like for example, we pay for electricity. And there are people who use electricity for good and evil, right? Or like for different reasons.
Yeah, but no, fucking people go on YouTube because it's free. Like first and foremost,
right?
You can just go and watch YouTube whenever you want. You
Yes.
make that shit paid, people are not going to go on there anymore. You vast amount of people
Oh,
are
I see what
not
you're
going to
saying.
go on there
Yeah.
anymore.
So okay. So yeah, you're right. So
They already have their own like subscription kind of
well, that's
service.
this. I think the challenge is YouTube started as free, and so we've grown up with YouTube being free, and we live this way, right? But the downside of it being free is that YouTube is controlled by ads, and therefore they have to be ad friendly, which therefore they're kind of stuck to censoring stuff.
I
right?
don't, you know what? I don't even think that's a problem if it's by ads or whatever. There's a lot of like by subscription or by membership
Yeah.
sort of organizations or companies or whatnot, entities where they would also do self-censoring as well, right? It's just whatever hits their bottom line, they want to self-censor that, right?
You're right.
Like you can have like your own little like organization or whatever, even as small as a bowling club where they won't allow racism, right?
Yeah.
Like there's no ads involved. They're not afraid that they'll lose advertising or whatever.
Yeah.
They just don't want it. They just have this whatever, a bottom line. I guess you can call it morality or whatever, but there are these taboos or bottom lines that you're not supposed to touch, and they'll censor you out for that. They'll kick you out for that stuff,
Yeah.
right? So I don't even think just because YouTube is based on ad revenue that this is why they're doing this. I think they're just at the very base of it. They're a private company. This is the cause. They're a private company. They can decide what they want if you're
So
using
then
their services.
how do they decide though?
Like
Why? What's their
the-
motive to decide to censor Crowder? Well, I mean, the motive is obviously they
Well,
want to
first
make
let's-
Fox happy because
well,
of NBC.
Well, first let's establish the basics first, right? And we have to understand everything with the basics. The basics are they're a private company. They decide their terms of service, right? As long as it doesn't
but their
contravene,
terms of service is
as
very
long as
vague.
it doesn't contravene U.S. law, they can decide their terms of service. And if you like fuck around, if you like breach them, then they can fucking ban your account. They can censor you. They can do it. It's not a question of free speech or not. They're a private company. That's
Yeah.
what people have to get through. The reason why this is even a thing and nobody gives a shit about like the bowling club, your local bowling club censoring whatever people for controversial views, is because YouTube is big. It has massive. It has clout. And a lot of people use it.
It's a global thing.
That's the only thing. That's why people are pissed, because it's so influential and powerful. That's basically it. Right?
Well, there's also no other platform like it.
Exactly. They have basically a monopoly on this stuff, but it's so big and it's so prominent. That's why people are having a problem with this, and they're accusing them of censorship and whatnot. And then you can the other argument that you can make is like, oh, does it hurt the private company's interest if they censor so and so or they censor it this way? But people that are trying to make this about some kind of free speech issue, they're getting it wrong, because this is a private company, right? They're forgetting that this First Amendment does not
So
apply.
you're saying like there's other avenue of free speech, not just YouTube.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
It's just that you're shit out of luck because YouTube's the biggest one in
and it does.
in
There
North
is
America,
there is a
right?
big audience on
Right.
YouTube. So I think even though like Crowder is demonetized, he still posts on YouTube. But
he's posting. It's not even. People making this a free speech issue and are like going to bat for Crowder.
Yes,
This is
they
the
are.
funniest thing, because it's not like they censored his speech. He's just not getting paid for these videos.
He's just
anymore.
not getting
There's
paid.
nothing even in
But
American
it does-
law.
but-
There's nothing in American law that says fucking everybody has a right to get paid for whatever the fuck they say. Right? So even if it was a government agent, or even if it was like mandated down from the government, they didn't break it. Nothing. No amendment is broken. Like nothing is actually being contravened here.
it is. Yeah. No, that's a good point. It's a good point.
Right, so like that's what just people just run with this idea, and they get just fucking out of hand. Like,
Yeah.
oh man, fucking Crowder's getting censored. Alex Jones getting censored. What now? I'm gonna go get my gun.
Well, no. Alex Jones got he got banned.
He got that. So yes, like people are basically saying like, you know what? It's coming. I gotta get myself ready. I gotta load up my guns. I gotta make sure I got a lot of ammo, bunker up, because fucking Crowder got censored and Alex Jones got banned. Like, what the fuck?
Would you talk to Alex Jones if you were in LA and like ran into the guy, like, because he
I
seems
just
like a
feel
lunatic. He's just
I'd
like
just be
yelling.
like,
at
hey,
me.
that's Alex Jones. Yeah, I know who you are. Hey, can we get a selfie? Whatever. That's what the extent as I'll go, because
Yeah.
I'm not gonna get into a deep conversation with him. It's a useless endeavor.
Yeah.
You treat it as a joke, but fucking that guy believes in some crazy shit.
Yeah.
You're gonna go into the deepest rabbit hole.
Well, there's a thing called Poe's law. I don't know if you heard of it.
What is that?
Poe's law is the idea that if you go to the extreme, it's hard to tell if you're doing it as comedy or
Yeah,
if you mean it.
am I still being ironic at this point?
Yeah, it's hard to tell if you're being ironic at that point. If it's like flat earther, it's hard to tell a troll flat earther versus a real flat earther because they both sound similar.
Well, yeah, if you put in the effort into it. But
Yeah.
usually you can tell, especially in person, like if someone really believes that shit. And plus, you can always ask that question, be like, wait a second, do you actually believe this shit? Right? Like you just point blank ask them, like, wait,
Yeah,
wait.
I guess if you could call them
or are you
out,
not joking?
you could call them out, yes.
Right? And at that point, you know, like if they're not gonna take it all the way undercover,
So
they'll say no.
on a different platform, Facebook. I don't know if you heard this one, but Pelosi, they slowed down her video to make her sound drunk.
Pelosi, yeah.
Yeah, and then she didn't like that video, and she asked Facebook to take it down, and Zuckerberg denied her request because they were like, we need to keep fake things because there was an issue with deep fakes, right?
Yeah.
Where people were initially, people use deep fakes to make porn,
Yeah.
right? Putting faces that weren't porn stars and onto porn stars' bodies and things like that. And then I guess in the Pornhub and Reddit community, they shut those down.
Yeah.
So not to spread that, but we're just slowing down. The thing is, it's gonna spread regardless. People are gonna develop it, and make it better and faster and things like that, right?
Yeah, and this is okay, and in relation to this, maybe not just something as silly as Pelosi getting pissed off from her little slow motion video, but this argument that you brought up earlier, like should these companies, since they're so powerful and have so much reach and so big,
Yeah.
should they be held more accountable, right?
I don't think they want to be.
They don't want. Of course, they don't want to be.
Google got put in a position because they're like, fuck.
There's no. Of course, they don't want to be. But should they be? Because another angle from that Facebook problem is when that guy in Christchurch shot up everybody in the mosque.
Oh yes.
Remember, that was streamed live, right?
That
And
was
it was on
streamed.
Facebook for quite a long time before it got put down. And then
Yeah.
people were saying like,
How
Facebook,
come you guys didn't
you
catch
fucked up.
this?
You
Yeah.
fucked up, right? And this case, like, you can't get off from it just because you're a private company. Because people died. You streamed like a murder happening, right, or whatever like that.
Yeah.
So then, like, there is a real that whole Crowder and freedom of speech thing is horse shit. But like, there is a real issue with these big companies, influential media tech companies that are so powerful, but they have so little, oversight, like. And the question of accountability and that kind of stuff does come in.
I feel like the oversights, you wouldn't imagine people do it that way. I mean, one is like, well, you have to be prepared for the unexpected, but it's tough for them because they control so much.
Yeah, but even going forward, like you can only imagine that with tech advancing even more and it becomes even more integrated in our lives, these companies are gonna have even more power and more of a say in a lot of these things. So,
Yeah.
what do you think about it? Like? Do you think that there should be more oversight? There should be more accountability. There should be some kind of limit or whatever, just imposed by them by society and government.
I feel like they're probably. I believe the engineers and the team there are considering these problems and are working on it.
Right.
So I don't think it's like should there be more. I think they're already in it. Like they know the issue and they are trying to identify it. But the challenge is for them is implementing those change, right?
But right, it doesn't.
Because regardless of what you do, you're always gonna get pinged on it.
Yeah,
one side
but
or the
like
other.
the individual engineers, it's not like we're assuming everybody's evil, right?
No, yeah, you're right.
We're not assuming everybody's evil.
But you also
it's
can't
just-
assume everyone's gonna do good.
No, but it's like evil and good. This is all horseshit. It doesn't fucking matter about any of that. Like, at the end of the day, Facebook as a private company is looking out for their interests, right?
Yeah.
But if they have all the sense of information and all the sense of power over the public, and is it good enough that they all are only accountable to their shareholders and their own interests if they have so much of like the public's basically assets and so much say in all of these things,
Yeah.
and so much reach in all of these things, right? It's not whether the individual people or the engineers or even the CEO are good or bad people, but as a private company that's only looking for their own interests and their shareholders' interests,
Yeah.
is that enough oversight? Is that enough like accountability for them to manage this entirely big, sensitive, very important private public like public society's information, and
Yeah,
like they're holding on to so much powerful kind of assets,
they are. Yes.
right? Like information, private information, and all that kind of assets.
And they're
Is it? Can you only say, hey, but it's okay because I think the engineers are good people. The CEOs, they have good intentions. They're not evil people. They can hold on to all of this as a private company and not worry about and we don't have to worry about anything at all.
so should they? It's a tough one. I'm not exactly
And see,
certain.
what I'm saying is like as people are more integrated and into their tech and the technology becomes more advanced and more invasive at the same time, they're gonna have to make changes to be more accountable to those things. They're gonna have to be there. I think in a government sort of view, in a society point of view, they're gonna have to become more accountable. I don't see it just becoming more and more like they just
Well, I think
operate as if they do now.
I think government is looking into it, right? Because like the whole deepfake things, I think there is a hearing coming up soon,
Right.
to talk about, because a recent technology that got developed was called Deep News, or Deep Nudes is what it's called. It's
Yeah.
a desktop application for Windows and Linux, and I think about 500,000 people downloaded it. It was about June 28th when it was released.
Okay, just tell people what it is.
Oh, okay. So basically, what you can do is you upload a photo to the algorithm, and you run the AI, and basically it strips the clothes off the person.
Yeah, so you could just get nudes of everybody,
Yeah.
anybody.
Yeah.
That's
You create
basically-
fake nudes of people, and yeah, it's like it's kind of opposite of deepfakes. Rather than you giving the nudes or the face in the training algorithm, it searches for it.
Yeah.
Primarily, it works on women because they found the developer. What they said is they found that there was more data of nude women than there are men, and that when you do it with men, it gave them vulvas.
That's
So
fucked.
so
But anyways,
this is the new technology.
anyways, yeah, well, definitely with this kind of stuff coming out, I only see them wanting to get more control from the tech companies.
Well, they
And
were-
the tech companies themselves
Yeah.
in public when they make statements. They always it's almost regular now that they make statements in regards to this. Like they have to comment about their responsibility to society
Yeah.
and stuff like that.
Well, it's
right?
I think like as an engineer, there is a whole ethics thing when you're designing things.
Right, but you also, as engineers know, it's not just ethics as well. You do have laws in that in regards to most of these
Well,
things as
actually,
well.
that's an interesting thing because the whole thing with deep nudes and deep fakes is that it kind of goes around the revenge porn laws, because revenge porn is not it's talking about your own nudes.
Yeah.
But if for deep fakes and deep nudes, they're not your nudes.
Yeah, but like they'll make a law about something like that as well, right? As long as they keep
Well, they
up
have to
on it.
modify it now that this technology exists.
Yeah, as the technology comes, they'll modify the law. But
Yeah.
I was talking like engineers, they to get like professional membership or whatever, they take that basically an ethics test to
Yes.
get their professional designations and stuff. But it's not just like society doesn't just rely on their ethics alone. They also make laws and regulations on this stuff. Because
Yes.
you're not just relying on the engineer to be ethical. You have a safeguard written into the law itself that says, "Oh no, you can't do this," or "You have to do this," and they set these things, right?
Yeah. So one of the challenge I think when setting a law is definition. Like, what do we define as things? Like, for example, like fakes. Right?
I don't. Yeah, I know what you mean. I don't think there's going to be as much of a problem. There might be. I might be wrong. There might be a big fucking legal.
Well, the thing
problem
is,
with
when you
this.
make a law too general, people are like, "Well, you're giving too much control."
Yeah, you can take.
And then when you make it
advantage.
too specific, then it's ineffective, right?
Yeah.
And it's always hard to find that the middle ground. Where it's like it's effective enough to, like you want to make a law where it stops people from doing a certain thing, but not restricting people from doing other things.
It's a learning progress, anyways, because even with the internet now, there wasn't a law for internet. There wasn't
Well,
cyber
like-
laws 100 years ago.
Well, pirating was the big one, right?
Right.
And now it's really like pirating. It's almost normalized in a sense.
But they
right?
came out with the laws in response to pirating and stuff. And I'm just trying to say, like, in the future, when deepfake and these things have some actual problems attached to them, there'll be laws made as well to try to like govern these things and try to
Yeah.
prevent people from abusing the technology.
Well, certainly, I think Disney probably has the the biggest interest in this law,
Yeah.
right?
I'm just saying I'm not too worried about it because they'll come out with it eventually anyways. Like the internet, pirating movies, streaming, fucking all that shit. Like they did, it came out. It may have not kept up as good as you want, but at least it did. The laws were made when these things were introduced in society, and we learned to use them and get along with them and have them in our lives, right?
Yeah, or in some, I think in the music case, the companies just kind of adapted with the whole streaming.
Yeah, or the companies adapted, or people might adapt even to fucking the changes in technology and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like there's so many things to worry about. Well, this is one of the things I'm not too worried about. Like,
Oh, I'm not worried about. I think I'm just kind of I guess I was kind of nerdy in reading how it works, but it works better the more skin you show.
I think the more interesting, yeah. Well, that's a given. I think the more interesting question is like, in the future, what would it look like with the big tech companies and the relations between people and the big tech companies and government and society at large? I think that's an interesting question to think about. Because they have an outsized influence already. I wonder going forward what that would look like. If it diminish, would it grow even more? Like would they? There's a lot of questions that. Well, in North
Maybe
America,
there needs to be more YouTubes, I guess, right? More platforms so that we hear other voices.
You think competition is the way to go? Like,
it's tough with social media. Unfortunately, the reason social media becomes big is that everyone uses the same platform, right? It's the whole fax machine problem. Fax machines are useless alone, but if everyone has a fax machine, then it's powerful, right? So Facebook or social media platforms, they work so well is because everyone uses the same thing. Like, for my personal life, I hate having different messengers to talk to different friends.
Yeah, you want it all in the room.
Like, it'd be great if we all have WeChat or whatever it might be, that global one. WeChat is the easiest one to pick just because in China everyone uses it. But like in America, like everyone has, there's a Facebook Messenger, there's a WhatsApp Messenger, there's a SMS.
Yeah, and this is how it's kind of
just
hard
wait.
for them.
It's so many, and everyone uses different ones for different reasons. Some people are like, "Oh, I don't trust Facebook's privacy policy," and therefore they use this ones.
I think this is one of the reasons why America and a lot of these Western countries are not adopting this integrated lifestyle as well as China did. Because if China, just on WeChat alone, you can do basically everything
you
need to do in society.
But I think there's the fear of privacy. I think that's the American or the Westerners.
We're definitely like Western society is definitely afraid of privacy.
They're afraid like, oh, we don't want the government tracking us, or we don't want anyone tracking us.
Also, the question of like how powerful and how influential are the tech companies is a much bigger problem. Oh shit! No, nothing. That was just a comp warning. It's a much bigger problem here. It's a much bigger problem in these societies because nobody in China is worried too much about like Tencent or WeChat. They're getting too powerful. I mean, they are in a little bit wary sometimes, but the main thing is always like they're always going to be. They're always going to have to answer to the government. Like everybody knows it already.
Well, not just government, but also like
people oversight,
being influenced,
whatever.
right? Being influenced to buy certain things. Like if WeChat, because WeChat's control government, they can choose what ads to show or.
They don't like that's where the misconception is. Like the government does not care what the fuck you buy, right? Like that's better decided by the market and the companies and the advertising revenue.
Right, but they can give that power to someone if they wanted to.
I don't. It doesn't. Like consumer choices are one thing. Like the government, usually the best state-run enterprises or companies are usually in like very strategic or basically like macro things like resources or telecommunications or things like that, like food, maybe even food, agriculture related. But consumer products, which is like the main thing that ads always target, like for people, that's usually just let the market take care of that shit. Like who gives a shit about the ads? Like they have a way to influence people to try to nudge them towards one way anyways, right?
All right.
Like they don't need to do it through ads. And WeChat, as far as they're concerned, they like it, because a lot more stuff gets digitalized. Like, so you can't just fucking hide taxes from the government if you're
Yeah.
settling all your accounts through WeChat and Alipay, right?
What happened? What was that? Who developed that app where you can? It's like a loan app where you can find out who owes, like if someone owes people money, like who's in debt and stuff.
Yeah, yeah, and that was
That's a
also
little invasive.
well, there was also like a scare, like over here, and people like to compare, especially a lot of the things the Chinese are doing and their new tech things with Black Mirror episodes, and they're always worried about this Orwellian 1984 thing, this overarching Big Brother kind of looking in and just controlling you and going through and just destroying your privacy and all that.
Yeah.
Right? So then when they see like the Sesame credit or like even those the new credit systems, which their most basic credit system is basically just the same credit system as you get from fucking Equifax here or whatever, right?
Okay. Yeah.
But it's blown up out of proportion where their credit system or whatever is looking like a Big Brother sort of deal.
That was the one. Are you talking about the one where they judge?
They have a social. Yeah, they have a social.
It's like the
credit
star
thing.
rating system.
Yeah, star rating system.
Yeah,
but
that's a Black Mirror episode. It's called Nosedive.
yeah, but the thing is, like over there, it was for there was a problem of people just, and this was also a problem of the cash-based economy where people were skimping out on debts. Like what they would do is they would set up like a scam company in one province, and then once they were fucking got, they would just leave, set it up under another name in another province, and what basically almost disappear, right?
Right.
Nowadays everything is on, it's much more like traceable online, and then right off the bat, like they can assign scores to entities and individuals, but the main concern was entities that basically do these things, that either commit too much infractions against the law,
Yeah.
or or do things that like that you can tell right off the bat. It's almost like a Yelp review, like, oh wow, this company's not that trustworthy, or this entity or this organization. And then you also have people too, like people that were not like fucking they were scamming people or whatever, right?
Yeah.
They would get the score on there too. And I want to say, like, a lot of this stuff we actually kind of do that as well, especially with regulatory bodies and whatnot. We do publish like which company does a little bit too much infractions. We have kind of a score for that as well.
Yeah, it's the Good Business Bureau.
Well, not even just Good Business Bureau, but like our natural resources regulating bodies also do that for like oil and gas companies.
Oh, I see. Right.
Right. So if a company has, and they post it publicly, the same way that you can pull it up, as the Chinese system is doing as well. So
Right.
this is not like an Orwellian thing to think. Like we also do a lot of that, like the most important aspects of it as well. It is, and I always say this, it is an exaggeration. It's a lot of the stuff that comes from, let's say, China was vastly overblown.
I do think China's system is, I'm envious where you can pay, because no one carry cash in China anymore, right?
Barely.
Yeah, people just pay with their phone. Everything's paid through WeChat, and like you set up a lot of things on your phone, which is pretty sweet. Where I think American companies, like, they would die to have like WeChat's position where you control all this data, right?
Yeah, that's what Facebook and a lot of the companies want to do that. Like Facebook has, Zuckerberg talked about plans of like we should have something like WeChat too, like, or like Facebook Messenger, but also like WeChat, also like Facebook.
Well, they want everyone to be on one platform,
like Facebook Wallet or some shit like that, or
like Apple's making their own credit cards.
Like they all want to get in on, like, the more integrated society is with the tech, and you get, especially see if of Apple, they want to build just a massive ecosystem of their own shit. The more that people are integrated in this tech, the more that these tech companies are going to provide. They're going to look into like giving you this completely self-contained ecosystem that you won't ever have to leave or not use any of their products to go through your life, right? You waking up to going to sleep. Their dream is to basically make sure that you're at least using some of their products or services throughout your entire day, right?
Well, actually, that was interesting because Facebook, they're introducing their own cryptocurrency, right? Which is kind of funny because it's kind of going against the whole what do you call it, concept of
Of
cryptocurrency.
crypto, yeah, you want to be
'Cause
anonymous, yeah.
yeah, well, one is you want to be anonymous, and one is you don't have a central body controlling it.
Yeah.
That it's controlled by the people, I guess.
And also crypto nowadays, people are just speculating on
Yeah,
cryptocurrency.
but it
they're
did
trying to make
boost up
wealth from it.
Bitcoin. It went up when Facebook announced theirs because I guess people seeing legitimate investors and things like that. But it's crazy if you look at those graphs of Bitcoin and how much it fell in a couple of years. Like before, when it was on its all-time high, like 15,000, it was ridiculous.
If you ever want to talk about like the economical terms of whether something's like a productive investment or not,
Yeah.
the cryptocurrency would be one of those things where it's really not it's just people are just finding themselves in situations where like, fuck, where do I park my money, or how
Yeah.
do I, what do I do? Like, it's either the economy is bad, there's nothing, I can't really invest in anything, might as well do crypto. Or people are like, I'm so worried about the economy and about my money, I gotta invest in something like cryptocurrency. That's why it's like so fucking big right now.
Yes.
There's just so much uncertainty
Well,
out
it's
there.
the fear
It's
of
the fear,
that
yeah.
that things are going to collapse and that crypto is the only safe haven, which I don't think that's true. If things are that bad, nothing's safe.
But but this is indicative of like what people are doing. Like, what this is indicative of the state, the condition of what we're living in right now, right?
Right.
If things were going good, you're not gonna see that much interest in like shit like cryptocurrency and stuff.
So you think we're in a world of crises right now?
We're heading there. Like, it's a slow burn, but definitely we're getting there. There's so much
Yeah.
things to fucking worry about.
I do think that if you look at history, like we're the first generation that isn't making more money than the previous generation, right?
I don't know if
Our parents made more better. Like our parents did better than their parents, and then their parents did better than their
Yeah.
parents, kind of thing. But like I think we're the generation that it's not gonna keep that nice trend.
Yeah.
We're the failures. This
I wanted to say, like, if you're looking at history, there's a lot of times in history where it went up and down, right? But it's like, yeah, you're right in regards to like our current like history right now, where you can tell things are going downhill because your living standards are probably going to be worse than your parents' or like the previous generation's living standard going forward. And then a lot of society's big problems right now are like the next generation is getting less for their work, and also just being less prosperous. There's less opportunity. There's less of everything. You name it. Anything you want to name, there's less of it going forward, right?
yeah,
Well, any
opportunities
good
certainly.
things.
Opportunities.
Any good
certainly.
things. All the bad things, there's numerous as you can see. But yeah, people
Yeah.
for first time. You're right in this regard. Like, for the first time in recent memory, we can see the downturn, and it's tangible. It's you can see it. You can see it materially as well, like a decline, and it is a very obvious decline.
Have you this is a random topic, but have you heard Bill Gates? He invested in what do you call machines that suck carbon out of the air.
Okay.
So basically, this is the idea of the whole global warming crisis, right? So we're at the point where we're releasing way too much, and that we're past the turning point. Like
Yeah.
even if we slow down emissions, we're fucked.
Yeah, you have to proactively try to reverse it.
Reverse the effects.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and we have the technology now. We can actually suck the carbon out of the air and shove it underground where it belongs.
Oh yeah, carbon capture.
Yeah, carbon capture, right? And so Bill Gates, he funded a lot of this stuff, and actually not just Bill Gates, but a lot of these oil and gas companies funding it, right?
Yeah.
Which is kind of like the irony, because they're the one also putting it out there. But it makes sense because for them, they have an incentive, because by saying like, hey, we're sucking a lot of it now, you can buy more of it. So then there's that criticism from other university professors. They're like, these companies shouldn't be the one supporting it, right? Because they're only supporting it because they just want to sell more of their product,
Well,
right?
okay, sure.
But then the thing is like, well, if they're not funding it, who's funding it, right? Because
Exactly.
no
Like,
one
they
no one
have-
has the incentive to.
They
Like,
have a shit ton of capital too. Like
Yeah.
whatever way you can get them to do it, either force them to do it or give them incentive to do it.
Yeah.
You might as well get them, and not just them. Like the whole premise is not is all. It's not only oil and gas companies or polluters.
well,
that
it should be
can
the
do this.
governments.
It should be anywhere you can get any kind of where you can get the resources to do it. You should do it.
All right, so yeah, so where should the money coming from for these carbon capturing system?
Everyone.
So, yeah, you were saying everyone, and I think I agree because the whole global warming and carbon, it is everyone's problem because everyone uses carbon energy in some form,
Mhm.
right? But I mean, it is
For
true.
the foreseeable future.
Yeah, for the future. I mean, currently America and Europe uses the most right now, but down the road, like now we've seen it, China's using it.
Yeah.
China and India is using it, and then the next ones will be like Africa, right?
Yeah.
They will be one of the last adopters.
Yeah, so if you subscribe to the theory that as people become more industrialized and more developed to have better quality of life, that you're gonna see more pollution come out of these previously low carbon, but probably
Well, there'll be
poor
negative
countries.
carbon though. What the whole?
Yeah, so you want to think about China reversing it, because unless you want to keep everybody else poor and not enjoy a lot of shit that you're able to enjoy,
Yeah.
unless you can sell that idea to everybody and have them agree to it, they themselves are going to want to
Yeah.
industrialize and start polluting as well. So you're gonna have to. You still have to think about reversing some of this stuff.
Yeah, because I think one of the criticism is like saying like, well, solar and wind also takes away carbon by not putting carbon in.
Yeah.
But we're at that point where that's just not enough.
You need an
That
active
we need-
counter.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's so the issue now is not a technological issue. It's just a political issue, trying to get the funding. Because right now the carbon capture system isn't getting funded as much as it needs
Yeah.
to get off the ground.
It's not just carbon capture, but you also want to research and develop a plethora of methods to try to get to negative carbon, try to take it out, and like all the pollutants out of the atmosphere, and
Yeah.
and that affect the earth and the environment as well.
But it's kind of cool to see that global warming has got to a point where now it's affecting people who are, I guess, carbon non-believers. In the sense, like, what I'm trying to say is, like, people who fly airplanes, right? With the whole weather system becoming more, like, chaotic,
Yeah.
planes aren't taking off as much and flying as much because they're just being delayed more, right?
Well, everybody's beachfront property in LA is gonna be fucking underwater anyways. So
Yes.
if you want, you get maybe that's why all the Hollywood actors are so fucking intense about global climate change and shit. I
A
don't
few
know.
of them are, yeah.
Maybe
Except
they-
Drake, when he celebrated the Toronto Raptors, he flew his private jet.
Yeah.
And just spent a lot. He like
Yeah, but he
emits-
doesn't have beachfront property in Toronto, right? I don't know. But this way we can loop it all the way back to the beginning, where we were talking about the Democratic debates, the way America in 2020 is shaping up to be the contender for Trump. And this will be, I think, one of the big dividing points, the big contentious points between whoever is going to be the Democratic nominee and Trump and the Republican Party. Because I think Donald Trump himself maybe doesn't understand the climate thing too much, but I know that. So I don't know. Maybe he does. I don't know. I assume that he doesn't. But his Republican Party are definitely, they double down on not caring about climate change. They're doing the opposite of caring about climate change.
Well, they got out of the Paris Agreement and many other.
Yeah, so
agreements.
they've doubled down as that party. The Democrat Party, I think, will want to. They're going to come into it as the party to fight the climate change. So I
What-
think this will be one of the big contentions.
Do they need to even talk about it? Because like
They
for
do.
the-
Yeah, they do. America definitely does. This will, and you'll see this as
because
part of
do you
the
think the
debates.
the people who vote for Republican, I don't think they care, right?
No,
like,
yeah.
If you want their vote, why?
No. They do. Like the Republican Party, a lot of it, they do care. You should see how much of their more lower members try to like do these weird arguments to, like refute climate change and shit like that. You
Okay.
can see them all on YouTube. But Mainstream Republicans, the argument is more like, it's not like, their prominent members don't believe this shit. They just think economic prosperity trumps climate change. So they
Yes.
refuse to close down plans to stop drilling
Well, that's. I guess
oil.
that's that. I guess is it.
It's more. It's less of a. It's less of a. I just want to pollute the earth because I'm stupid and I'm evil.
Well,
and more of an economic.
Right.
There's an economic
They
argument
believe
there.
They believe that
don't
we
want to
need to believe in or worry about the economic
Yeah.
issue. The thing is, I'm wondering is, do we have an economic issue? It's like, are we not making enough? Right?
And it's mostly in the like even Alberta. Alberta is one of those places in Canada where oil and gas trumps climate stuff, right?
Yeah.
It is, and
Unfortunately.
in a lot of the U.S. places, especially like the ones that depend on oil and gas, or mining for as the economic heart, they also consider the economic angle over the global climate change angle, right? So that's what the Republican Party is doubling down on.
Mhm.
And that's because in a way, like, their biggest donors, their biggest lobbyists are also from that gigantic industry too, right? They do create a lot of economic activity. They have a lot, and their representatives, their politicians have a lot of incentive to defend that industry. And I guess one of the ways, if you could make it in the interest of the fossil fuel industry in America to pursue carbon capture and climate change, maybe you'll get the Republican Party to also go for that as well. I don't know, right? But if someone was worried about climate change, that's exactly what that could be something that they do. But this in 2020, this will be one of the major debating points between
So you
Trump
think
and whoever goes up against him.
will this be the best election of all elections?
I don't know. It's tough to top 2016. 2016 was fucking hilarious.
That was great.
2016 was a knee slapper right there.
Yes, that was hilarious. It was quite the show for certain.
It would be really funny. Trump wins again. That's where the show will be
Yeah.
at. If he wins 2020.
Oh
Yeah.
man, I wonder what Bernie will say, because like he really thinks that Trump is the worst president.
Well, they'll all
I guess
say
they
that.
all
They'll
would
all
say
say
that. Yes.
But you see, the difference between when Bernie is saying he's the worst president, and when someone else is saying he's the worst, is Bernie will say he's the worst because all our jobs, their manufacturing jobs are gutted, blah 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 blah, and he'll talk something about the
He calls
unions
him
and
a
stuff.
fraud and racist.
Yeah. Like, he'll say like the people voted for him because the people are angry and they're legitimately angry for whatever.
Yes.
Whereas someone like Biden or Buttigieg would say, they voted for him because of Russia, and
Right.
or something like that, right?
Right.
Just completely bypassing like their like own substantial.
That's an
population.
interesting strategy. Like, is it better to say like he won because there was interference, or is it that or just paint him as the villain that he won because he's like the worst?
If they paint him as a villain,
Or like
they might lose. I mean, they have
Yeah.
to address why, like that. He has a base. He has a big base for a reason. They have to address
certainly.
that. And I think some people made some good points, and they were and I think I agree with this as well. When we're looking at the Democratic debates, we're like, the thought was they are relying way too much on like social issues and identity politics too much in that debate, right? Everything they talked about was like had a lot of social issues, right? It was like the racism, women's rights, and just identity. It's kind of like dog whistling, sort of, right?
Yep. Right.
And I was thinking, like, if whoever becomes the Democratic nominee and they go head to head with Donald Trump, just based on social issues and identity politics and all that shit that the Democrats
They're
like
gonna
to do,
lose.
they're gonna lose. Like that. That's
Because that's Trump's favorite game.
Yeah, because the whole point is because he doesn't play that game, right?
Exactly.
That's
how
why.
he's so good at it.
Exactly. So like yeah. So if they go at that angle and they ask like Donald Trump versus the Democratic nominees, like, what are you gonna do about the black, like the black racism,
Or the
and
migrant
the
problem.
women migrant problem. Well, migrant problem is a little bit more like it would have a little bit more teeth, but like
Oh yeah. I
but like
suppose.
women's rights, the racism. Like, this is not to say that they're not like serious important issues, right? But
Yeah.
like they're not the defining if your country is going to go down into the gutter right now or not issues. Like these are symptoms of a much more deeper thing. Well, the racism one is really deeply ingrained into America, but like a lot of that is tied in with also economics as well. It can't just be seen as, oh, every white person in America is racist, and you need to like think about it that way, right?
But
like it's too simple. It's too simplified of a problem.
But the thing is, the audience likes simple, because when you get you get a candidate like Andrew Yang, and he spoke at the debate, but I feel like when he spoke, no one understood what he said. Like no one commented on anything.
No, because that's not like a hot top. That's not like an emotional hot topic.
But it is. It's about jobs.
It is.
But he talks it in a way that no one understood, because he's talking about automation is taking your jobs.
We gotta talk about Andrew Yang in a bit too.
And the crowd just didn't understand. And the thing is, the moderator took his problem, gave it to another candidate, and that candidate never even answered that question.
Yeah, we gotta talk about Andrew Yang because we did an episode on him as well. And then, but yeah, like this is theater, it's grandstanding, it's whatever emotional story you get, right? The formula is you get asked a tough question, and then sometimes you just reach back and say, when I was a young kid and seeing my working class father do this and that, blah blah blah, inspiration, blah 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 blah, and American dream, blah blah blah, applause. That's how you get the audience in these debates, right? And you can see, like, what drew the most attention wasn't really economic things from Bernie or Andrew Yang or anybody else. It was mostly like Kamala Harris, fucking clap back at Joe Biden, right? Like that was like everybody is saying that is the star like moment.
You could definitely tell when the highlights were they're just comedic.
Yeah, and like, look, like her as like a black woman, and then like Biden saying whatever he said about the racist senators and being buddy with them. Yeah, that's fucking emotional and shit, right? But like fucking, if you're like, that's not going to destroy your country like automation would if you're not prepared for it, right?
Oh, definitely not.
That like this whole like the whole relationship between like production and your society and the technological changes that would come to it, like fuck, no one's gonna riot over something Joe Biden said or what he did back then, but people will riot and shit when like when society changes because of technological changes, and nobody cares about that. Because obviously, it's not a debate. It's not like a debate on actual policy. It's a show.
It's a show, yeah. It's still a popularity contest.
And Andrew Yang is bad at performing at this kind of show.
Oh, yeah. When they asked him the question, like, what is universal basic income? Like, what is your platform? Andrew's first answer was, what? Like, as if he didn't know his own platform. I think it's probably because he didn't hear it. Like, there's probably a technical issue. I don't know. But the way it was filmed, it did make him look incompetent.
But when he goes into his universal basic income thing, like the way he does on all his tours, he can't really do that. He has to switch it up in a way at the debate.
Yeah, he kind of repeated himself. Like if you heard him at the debate, he speaks the same way as he spoke anywhere else.
He does need to change it. He can't just speak that way in a debate. He almost needs to put in the drama, because that's what they want in those Democratic debates. He needs to put in that. Almost like an emotion or like some kind of dramatic movie, a dramatic movie speech.
It's kind of like the YouTube problem for you to stand out in YouTube, because there's so many videos in YouTube. Right? You need to be clickbaity. You need to have a really enticing title, right?
Yeah.
And your thumbnails to look something like for someone to click on, because people aren't going to hear your message unless they click on it. And so for Andrew Yang, people aren't going to hear his message unless he speaks in a way that the camera's on him. That wants to see him and talk.
It's like the hot keywords and shit, and like you're trying to vie for people's attention.
Exactly.
And with 20 people on the debate stage, like you're gonna have to do way harder than that. I mean, you gotta like fucking Marianne. She went out of her way to fucking get known.
Yeah,
to get noticed,
people know her for the loved speech for sure, and I think people know Andrew probably for the UBI. Like that is unique, certainly, but I don't know if it's enough
Oh
though.
no, he's really low. He's
He's
polling
still,
at low
yeah.
single digits.
Like
Right?
he's probably doing well with the circumstance he's given. Like he hasn't done any political. Like he's, you know, just what do you call it? Like a capitalist, right?
Yeah, but as an entrepreneur, yeah, he doesn't have, but he's been doing the same kind of like campaign circuits as some of these other guys that are at low digits as well.
Right.
Like fucking, if you want to talk about who stood out, Marianne stood out a little bit more because she was doing literally nothing, and then she came out and fucking came out swinging at the debates, and people are like, who the fuck's that hippie lady, man? I'm like,
That's true. People are talking about it.
People's searches went up for her. They went up for that the Latino guy, Castro.
Yes.
Probably just to make sure it's like, hey, is that Fidel Castro? Or
Yeah.
like, maybe, but he performed good, right? And he was relatively unknown. People's Google searches shot up like 2,000%. They said, right?
Oh, the
For him.
trending. Yep.
Yeah, and Marianne shot up, right?
Yeah. So. God.
So he's, if you don't want to talk about Andrew Yang's debate performance, and it is a performance, a theatrical performance. He's not doing well.
How negatively does that affect his chance of winning?
I don't know. Like, it's probably not looking good if he's unknown, kind of, because these debates are the most visible that you're gonna get.
Yeah,
Until-
certainly.
until
People who aren't
nominations.
into politics, this is probably
Yeah, so this is how you're gonna.
Where you're
This is
gonna
where you
get
get the
seen.
most exposure, for sure. But this is how you have to sell your performance during these debates. Like, policy almost doesn't matter as much, and that's really sad thing to say.
yeah.
If you're American, if you're not American, then it's really funny fucking thing to say. Like, haha, this is your fucking political system. You like it? It's a theater. It's just fucking just people on stage, just performing. Yeah, so if that's not up to
Well,
par, he's
it's-
not getting anywhere close.
It's funny because when the American election is happening, around the world is watching too. Like
Yeah.
like the UK is watching.
No,
right?
everybody. China's
Everyone's
watching.
watching it. Yeah.
Russia's
so
watching.
it's almost like in many sense you're right. It's very entertaining to
It
watch.
is- Yes. Yes,
but
is.
but if you're American, you're just like, well, you're just playing with our lives here.
No, but a lot of Americans don't think that way. A lot of Americans, when they watch it, they get their decisions made, or they're like, yes,
Yeah.
Kamala Harris owned Biden, or like, yeah,
Yeah, it reinforces their tribes.
yeah, like
certainly.
woohoo, like throw it down, whatever, like, right? It's like it's WWE on stage. It is the Royal Rumble of 20 people. One has to.
Kind of wish there was a
King of the Hill.
WWE moderator, like, at least show some teeth to shut people up sometimes.
They can't, like, they give each other like a minute to talk. What the fuck are you gonna get across in a minute?
Oh, certainly, yeah, nothing. Their closing speeches, yeah, it's pretty hilarious.
It's just a soundbite. Let's get your motto, right?
Yeah.
$1,000 for everyone. Love for.
I still love Bernie, where he just lists off all his targets.
Yeah.
We're gonna get the pharmaceutical industry. We're gonna get the insurance industry, the oil and gas industry, Wall Street.
Bernie performed as well as his base can consider. It performed well.
He did amazing. Like he did very well.
But it's still like I don't know if that is like has broad American appeal as much yet, because people like I like to say like the disenfranchised are divided right now, and a big chunk actually is going for Trump, right? And Bernie has a lower percentage of the disenfranchised, but still it's kind of that kind of group of people. And the disenfranchised are the majority of people are voting in the 2020 elections.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's just the way that who are these people that have fucking problems and seeing and suffering, who are they going to vote for, right? And
Yeah.
that's the divided field. And that's why I think even Biden with 40% poll numbers, like he's from the traditional establishment guys, right? He's from the nostalgic Democrats that want that still wished Obama was president, right? Those
Yes.
little guys will vote for Biden, but people's lives who are getting worse or getting really affected by the economy and most of the working class, whatever, I don't know. Why would you vote for Biden? He's not really doing anything for you.
No, honestly, he had a lot of screen time at the debate, but he didn't really say much that sold me to him. Like I don't buy his platform. I guess I don't even know what his platform is.
Yo, Jesus. He's basically like, I want to keep everything. His literal platform is no change. I want to keep everything the way it
Yeah,
is.
things are going good, guys.
Yeah.
Let's keep it as is.
Like, let's not be like Bernie and target the bankers and the capitalists and whatever. No, let's keep everything the same. That's his message.
Yeah, right. He doesn't think there's a problem.
No,
Which,
he just thinks that people should be more like people back then during the segregation era,
yes.
where he had a lot of good times. That was his central message that everybody remembered.
Well, it's interesting because with so many candidates in the Democrat, it doesn't seem like anyone is suited to beat Trump. Unfortunately.
It's yeah, it would have. I almost think you gotta get a way much more radical, like radical as in the within the scope of these candidates. You know, like maybe you can possibly see someone that like Warren, Sanders, maybe even if Yang got it right, maybe even like fucking I don't know some of these people, but the main front runners, like Biden. And maybe Buttigieg, maybe Harris. I don't know. I haven't seen if any of them surged up in the polls, but they can't. I don't think they can do it. And also, it's important to remember that these polls don't really mean as much as some people say they do. And like I cited Biden's like 40%, but like it doesn't mean much, right? And also these preliminary debates also may not mean as much as well, because if you remember in the Republican primary in 2016, Jeb Bush was looking like he was slated to take the whole thing by poll numbers and by the first debates that they had. Jeb Bush was the one with the most resources in his campaign, the most highly funded campaign. He looked like he was going to trample over all the other.
Did he also have his meme going? The please clap meme?
No, that was after.
Oh, that was after.
Was during his fucking. That was during his collapse.
Oh, I see. Damn.
Or maybe it was during. It may have came before, it may have not, but I just know it shot up to prominence after Trump started getting momentum.
Oh, I see. Right.
Right. And then he's basically showing how much of like a fucking wuss like Jeb Bush was or something like that. That's when his whole thing collapsed. So these preliminaries, you take it for what it's worth, right? These first debates, you can say, but it's way too soon to make a prediction, and you gotta have to wait and see.
Okay. Well, it seems like it's a good start for an entertaining.
Yeah, you get to see like
election.
what the bullshit is gonna all be about, and it looks like it's gonna be identity politics and social.
It's kind
issues.
of like sports, really. You're watching the regular season going on, and then it drills down to the final conference.
Yeah, they gotta hit at the economics. That's if you're gonna beat Trump, you gotta beat him at the economics and.
Yeah, you gotta prove to him that the economy isn't doing as well as he say he is, and he's ruining relationships and that people are looking for alternatives outside of U.S. because U.S. is trying to isolate themselves.
But also like appealing to his base, and you can't think of them as like deplorables or whatever. You gotta look at them like just people that are suffering. Like they could not have, maybe they're not knowledgeable about a lot of shit, and who's to say your own people, your own supporters are not knowledgeable about a lot of shit either, right? But you gotta look at them as disenfranchised people, and you gotta like go to them, be like, I understand why you're hurting and shit, but Trump's not the answer. I'll try. This is what I'll do for you. Blah blah blah. You approach it like that, you have a better chance.
Yeah, certainly. I agree.
Well, we'll see what the next debates are looking like.
Yes.
And then anything else you wanted to add?
I want to finish with a story. I thought it was really ass backwards, but I thought it was interesting.
What story?
It's a story in Alabama. So Alabama, they passed a law with the whole abortion thing. Right?
Yeah.
And so there was a story where there was two women, and one was pregnant, and the other had a gun, and she shot the woman who was pregnant. And so the baby died, but the woman lived. And then what happened was the woman who was pregnant was charged for manslaughter because she let her baby die.
Oh my god.
And the person who shot the baby, she walked free. And I thought that was ass backwards.
Oh my god. What the fuck?
Yeah, it was a recent story. So anyways, yeah, the pregnant woman, she's charged with like a couple of years in jail and
Wow, yeah, fucking good going, Alabama.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
They said the police report was the only victim here was the baby.
Yeah, yeah, good going. I don't know what was the mother doing? Why did you?
Apparently she got in a fight with a friend and she had a gun and got the
Okay,
ammo.
yeah, okay, yeah.
And then I guess the police was like, well, you shouldn't have fought. He's like, you set this up. You wanted to fight with her
Okay,
so you
good.
could lose your baby.
Sure, good going, Alabama. All right.
Yes. That's a good story.
Oh, all right. Is that all?
That was it.
All
Yeah.
right. Because we don't have enough time to talk about abortion, buddy. All right, man. Let's wrap it up. Till next time.
Till next time.
Like,
Have a good
comment,
night.
subscribe. Like, comment, and subscribe. Bye bye.
See ya.